Yeah. David Miller on the mic, bringing heat to Opwell. Podcast blasting off, Bulldogs never dwell. Greg Walkup co-host, keep it real, no cap. Students tuned in, ears up for the rap. Bulldogs unleashed, we the kings of the scene. Opwell, pride strong, yeah, we live in the dream. David and Greg, voices loud, never been. Bulldogs on the rise, so fresh, so clean. Middle school vibes, spreading knowledge like wildfire. David dropping facts, arrest your mind, call side. Greg with the insight, sharp as attack. All well on the map, never looking back. Bulldogs unleashed, we the kings of the scene. All well, pride strong, yeah, we live in the dream. David and Greg, voices loud, never been. Bulldogs on the rise, so fresh, so clean.
Welcome to the Bulldogs Unleashed podcast. My name is David Miller, joined by Greg Walkup. And Greg, how we doing today, friend?
What's going on, man?
Hey, a lot going on in the studio today. We have a special guest. I know I say that every time.
All the time.
But I truly mean that when I say
Cherry on top.
the guest today is the sheriff of Forsyth County.
Man.
Sheriff Ron Freeman.
Yeah. It was a cool episode today.
Great episode. Great to get to know a little bit about the sheriff, his background, and his passion for Forsyth County and keeping this community safe. Let's get into that episode. But don't forget to be sure to follow the Bulldogs Unleashed podcast on Spotify. Click on that bell so you get a notification every time we drop a new episode. And like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you get a notification when we drop a video podcast as well. Let's get into today's show.
Let's go.
All right, yeah, we are, Greg, we have a very special guest. So we always have special guests,
right? Yeah.
But a very special guest in the studio today. We are lucky to have the sheriff of Forsyth County, Mr. Ron Freeman. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's get the applause for you.
Man, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at the crowd. Look at the crowd.
Man,
I mean, there's standing room only outside. If you see those kids. they're just-
VIP.
Yeah, ready.
They were all running, but anyway.
They're like, wait a second. Well, thank you for being here. We know you're sheriff of a big county. What's Forsyth County in Metro? I guess it's not the largest, but it's one of the largest.
So we're the 8th largest county in the state of Georgia. Forsyth County is.
Yeah.
And then we are the 3rd largest full-service sheriff's office in the entire state of Georgia.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And when we had some time, we were looking at, we're doing our homework.
Yeah.
Because we are professional. Yeah. And we are educators. We do give homework. Looking at your resume, very impressive resume, by the way. The things that you've accomplished.
Been blessed.
And also, I'm not great at math, but it looks like you're coming close to up on 40 years in law enforcement. Started in 1987.
So was out for 1 year while I was running for sheriff.
Yeah.
And so I'm about to start my 37th year
Wow.
in law enforcement.
That's amazing.
If you'd asked me in the beginning, I would be doing this in 37 years, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
But I still love it, and I still love every day I come to work.
Where does that passion come from? A life of service, and that's what it is. It's a life of serving and serving community. Where does that passion come from?
Well, it's driven by, look, people just do similar things, but educators are very similar. People, my wife's in the medical field, medical workers are social workers, fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
The idea is part of it's the adrenaline, part of it's the fun, part of it's the camaraderie of working with people. But the other part is, no one dials 911 when they're having a good day, right? No one calls us to tell us their day is going well.
Yeah.
So almost every person we interact with, especially on a call, is in need of something. They need help. And they look to us, they look to firefighters, they look to EMTs to be that voice of reason, that voice of help, and to try to make things better. And that's a unique, one, position to be in. And two, if you can't find gratification in that, I would question your ability to be a good human.
Mm-hmm. Wow. For sure. And looking at your resume here, before you became sheriff, you were asked to start the police. Let me make sure I get my notes here right. Start the police department of Brookhaven. Is that correct?
So I did. So I had been here for almost 27 years at the sheriff's office. Started as a young kid right out of Georgia Southern, and had an opportunity. And I thought I was going to career here my entire life and retire from here. And just that unique opportunity. Brookhaven, if you remember, for some of the audience will remember when Milton, Johns Creek, those kind of new cities popped up all over North Fulton. Well, it's happened in DeKalb, and Brookhaven did not exist. It was not an incorporated city. And so I got the opportunity to go with about 5 other guys and start the beginnings, the day I went to work in Brookhaven was, I'll never forget, because it was April 15th, 2013. And for the adults, we all remember April 15th.
Yeah.
For not a good reason, right? Because
Yeah.
its taxes are due.
Yep.
And the beginning, when I got there, I'd interviewed and got hired as a chief, and there was when I got there that morning at about 6:45, there was an iPhone, a laptop, and a desktop phone.
Okay.
That was the entire Brookhaven Police Department on April 15th, 2013.
Yeah.
And in 3.5 months, I had a 70-man police department fully equipped, staffed, and on the street. So the opportunity to build that was just such a unique experience. I couldn't pass it by.
I was about to say, how do you start
just, like, recruit?
the police? Like, what's
Flyers?
step one?
What are we doing?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, if you don't think that 90-hour work weeks can be a real thing,
Yeah.
I can assure you they can, because those were 80 hours was a short week for that 3.5 months. We interviewed over 1,000 potential officers and had to equip. I mean, there was not a uniform, there was not a gun, there was not a bulletproof vest, there was not a police car, a radio. So acquiring all that, in 3.5 months, we spent $7.5 million to stand it up.
Yeah.
And then ended up with right at 70 officers and civilian staff hired. And you learn how to project manage really well. And so I always had in my head that I would like to run for sheriff here in Forsyth County. Just wasn't the time yet.
Yeah.
And I knew that project management, that was a one-time opportunity. There's probably been 10 people in the state of Georgia that were given that opportunity to build a police department and build an agency from scratch.
Yeah.
And it was just something I couldn't turn down.
So you're there, right?
Yeah.
And then what leads to you coming back home essentially?
Well, this is home. So, as we were kidding before we started, most people think I'm a native. I'm not. I moved here from South Georgia, just near Georgia Southern, Statesboro, Georgia, in Christmas of '79. So you might as well say 1980. And so this has been my home for 44 years. I married a homegrown girl, and my joke is they gave me a T-shirt, told me I could stay.
Yeah.
Her family's been here since 1832. So I was 11 when I got here. This is home. It's been my home for 44 years. And as much as I love that opportunity in Brookhaven and building that, those weren't per se my people. When I say that, this is where I went to school at. This is where I met my wife at. This is where my kids were at, where my kids went to school, where I go to church at, where I coach youth sports at. Everything around my life was Forsyth County. And I'd spent my entire young adulthood and middle adulthood protecting Forsyth County. And I saw some challenges going on in the sheriff's office, an agency that I loved and had cut my teeth in this profession in. And I saw some needs, and I had the opportunity, and the citizens of this county blessed me with giving me the trust to come back and be sheriff. And, I think we're not perfect, but we've done a good job. We have the lowest crime rates in all of Metro Atlanta. It's the safest county in Metro Atlanta, and we have been during my entire tenure as sheriff.
What do you contribute that to?
Yeah, how do you get that?
'Cause
This is massive.
For Forsyth County, as much as it's expanding,
Yeah.
typically when you expand, you can see an uptick in maybe some crime.
Sure.
But how do you and your department keep that rate as low as you have?
So I will tell you that crime today is lower than it was 10 years ago when we had almost 100,000 less people living in Forsyth County.
Wow.
But this is going to sound really weird. You build it by culture. Culture is look at the best sports programs in the world, right? Look at Alabama, now look at Georgia, now look at, I know Georgia's had a little tough year this year. We won't talk about Georgia Southern football. But when you look at it, is culture building. It is setting expectations. It is creating a sense of purpose and not accepting, I know people get mad at me if I'll quote Nick Saban, but he has one of the better quotes that are out there.
Yeah.
Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And if you set the expectation of high achievement, you couple that with Forsyth County is just we complain about things that are really first world problems. Look, we are the highest per capita income. We have the #1 rated large school system in the entire state of Georgia, healthiest county, most educated populace. We have all these phenomenal #1s, and the citizens and the sheriff's office have this relationship.
Yeah.
In Brookhaven, we would knock on some doors in some depressed apartment complexes asking about a shooting or asking about something, and the doors would get slammed in our face. That doesn't happen here in Forsyth County, right?
Yeah.
So it is the hard work of the men and women of the sheriff's office, but it's equally the citizens here cooperating, working with, and not being tolerant of crime. The quote that I use, my personal quote all the time is, crime will rise to the level a community will tolerate. And I say it all the time, Forsyth County is not tolerant of crime, nor should we be.
Correct.
And I think when you couple those things together, you create the secret sauce of why Alabama, Georgia, and others, and I hope why Forsyth County Sheriff's Office continues to be that same high-achieving organization.
No, I agree, and definitely see it for sure.
I love that.
One of the reasons we wanted to have you on is the partnership with the Sheriff's Department and Forsyth County Schools.
Absolutely.
It feels like, as an employee, it feels like on our end, it's been a great partnership. We've enjoyed it. We feel safe. Greg, I don't know if I can speak to you, but feel safe every day we come to work. We feel safe sending our kids to school every day, and I think that's contributed to your work and the work of our superintendent and our Board of Education. We just recently went through a change of superintendents, went from Dr. Bearden now to Mitch Young. Mm-hmm. How is that partnership still continuing with Mr. Young and the Sheriff's Department?
So I was on the phone at about 8:30 this morning with Superintendent Young, and I love the fact Superintendent Young, Mitch, and I are Mitch and Ron to each other, and always have been.
Yeah.
When he was principal, we had a really great relationship when he was principal at Central, my alma mater as well.
Yep.
And so that relationship was already there. That's the great part. Dr. Beard and I had a great relationship, but Mitch and I had even more of a personal relationship longer than Dr. Beard and I did. And so it's been fantastic, honestly. And, you know, when you talked about me coming back and running for sheriff a little bit, one of the primary driving purposes was I looked at our schools. I looked at school shootings that were happening across the country. I'm a student of that. As sick as that sounds, I have to be. When I took office, we had about 9 or 10 SROs, right? School resource deputies assigned to school resource officer positions. Today we have 58.
Yeah.
And I knew that had to change. If we're going to keep our kids safe, and if I can't keep our kids safe, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Then that was one of the driving forces behind the first campaign that I had, is that we were going to make Forsyth County schools as safe as we possibly can. There is no 100% safe anywhere in the world. As we saw, presidential candidates aren't safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things can be done to mitigate that and make it as safe as you can. And as a school system and as a sheriff's office, man, we work phenomenally well together. I'm really, really proud of that relationship.
No, as you should be.
And could you talk a little bit about, because you said, and as sick as that sounds, but I like that as a parent and as an employee, that you're a student of those things. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you? Do you guys look at like even some of the most recent types of shootings and see kind of the flaws and the challenges there, and then you guys use that as almost an educational purposes for y'all's team, or what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. A tragedy becomes a double tragedy if you don't learn from it. And so we have to take that. Every time an officer's killed in the line of duty, we research that. When a school shooting happens, I was in Savannah at a sheriff's conference last week, and Tuesday night, Sheriff Judd Smith, who is the sheriff of Barrow County, where this horrible thing over at Appalachia High School it's already on our minds and are, still thinking about and doing those things. He and I had dinner together. And we talked, and we were friends already. We talked a lot about that case and what happened and how those things are. And I learned a few things that weren't in the media, that weren't in the news, right? And you can imagine, it's a criminal case pending. But I was able to bring that back to our team, and we'll implement that in our training as the what-if factor, so that we get better when we do active scenarios of emergencies in schools or emergencies in some other place. We'll look at all those things and learn from that, right? If not, again, as I said, imagine if we didn't. It's a sick thing to have to read and learn and do that. This past summer, I was in Oklahoma City at a national sheriff's conference presenting something, and I sat in a classified briefing about the Uvalde school shooting in Texas. And I literally almost got up and threw up. The failures that were so horrible and so many in that incident, which did not happen in Appalachia, in Barrow County. It was saddening, but it was something I had to hear and I had to learn to be able to bring back.
What is that? You guys do active shooter, crisis response. How often does that happen?
So
do you guys do that?
Yeah, we do. So we do it with fire department. We do it with the sheriff's office. We have hot teams who medics go in with us and do those things. So we do a full scale scenario at least annually. But every one of our deputies are trained in an active shooter thing. And we do that remedial training every year, a couple of times a year. Our school resource deputies go through 10 days of continuous training when school's out during the summer. They all train together. And one of the things they do is that primarily. right? All those things around that, but it also surrounds the other stuff. I hate to say this, we're really good at that. God forbid if that happens, we're really good at going and stopping a threat and ending that. But that's way, way too late. So the school system and we have doubled down on the student advocacy specialists, right? Crisis counseling, identifying kids in challenge and in need before something can happen, right? Our threat assessment teams are very robust. If a threat comes in, a social media threat or any other kind of threat of the school comes in, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody's up and moving at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we don't go home until it's resolved. So getting on the front side of that and keeping a kid from devolving to a point where he or she wants to bring a gun to school is the win, not responding to something that happens at a school.
Correct. And I think, too, one thing your department does really well, and I don't know if this is on design or by purpose, but I believe after hearing you speak it is your SROs do an amazing job of building a relationship with our students. And I think when you see law enforcement building relationship with young kids to let them know they're here for them, that goes a long way when these kids are in need or in crisis, right?
Well, as we all know, all of us, and particularly when we were young, when we were children and young adults, we needed somebody we could trust, right? And so whether it's a counselor, whether it's often as a teacher, you guys are educators, it often is a teacher, whether it's a deputy sheriff who's in that SRO role. Here's a great part about the 58 assigned to the school resource program. Not a one of them are assigned to it by me. When I say that, every one of them volunteered to be an SRO. The worst thing I could ever do is put, say, a young 24-year-old cop, deputy sheriff, who's hot to trot and wants to go chase bad guys and go get bad guys, which is a great thing. We need we need someone to do that. But they're not ready in their career to come work with elementary school kids. And I forced that deputy to go sit in an elementary school, right? The chances of building those great relationships are probably not real high. Every one of these, and we try to align those deputies. Hey, I really like, just like educators, hey, I really want a middle school or high school. I don't think I'd be good at elementary school, or I really want elementary school. I definitely don't want high school. We do the same thing with the SROs. Hey, what age group do you like working with? What do you do? Some of them are like me. I coach 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade football for years and years and years. I love that middle school age, me. Okay, others will pull their hair out.
That's not for everybody.
And so from that side, we've been able to match those things together, and then we even try to match principals and administrators and SROs together. So the principals and administrators, like for Otwell here, will sit on, along with school safety, will sit on the interview if we were going to assign a new SRO here, right, to find that good mesh, that good match, so that we work well together.
Because every school has its own culture and climate, and you want someone to come in and fit right in and be a part of that. You talked about having 58 SROs.
Yes.
3 to 5 years from now, what do you think, or what is your goal for that partnership with the county and the sheriff's department and the SRO? What does that look like for you 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So from the school safety standpoint, we're looking at adding a couple of, we call it juvenile detectives who would work on crime for people who are juveniles, right? So 18 and under, basically 17 and under in the state of Georgia. They would also become our threat assessment leads. So we would send them to a lot of specialized training. Threat assessment is, right, how do we track down social media? Someone says, I want to do something bad at school. How do we track that? How do we track that after the fact when we've identified that person, if we've charged them? How do we work with school safety to make sure we're sharing information that we legally can share? We're already talking with legislators about, after the Appalachia shooting, how do we change some laws so that some of the issues about schools being able to share information with us, which is federal related. It's nothing to do with Forsyth County school system. They're awesome. They'll do anything they legally can do with us without any question. So having 2 of those, so the rule is now every major high school has 2 deputy sheriffs assigned to it, and then every other school has 1 deputy sheriff assigned to it full time. We've talked about, does that look like a third? Do we add more supervisors so we have people who can rove and spend random time at different schools? We've added 2 K-9 units who work within the school system. We're adding a second, we call it an EOD, explosive ordnance detection. Those dogs can also be used to look for guns. So we have 2 K-9 units assigned as well. And so I think we just look at build that. The answer is not always more people. Sometimes the answer is technology. Our real-time crime center, which is broader for the entire sheriff's office, will stand up. We've worked with the school system to get access to the school cameras. And we're both talking about AI being software that can go on there that could notify if, God forbid, somebody pulls something out of a backpack and it's recognized as a weapon.
Alert
it's
you
one,
guys.
it's too late.
Yeah.
But what if it gives us 20 seconds
Yeah.
alert, right?
Yeah.
I'll take 2 seconds extra. I'll certainly take 20 seconds. So we're looking at opportunities for AI and advancements in technology to work with existing cameras, not to read kids' faces and things like that, but to look for a weapon, right?
Yeah.
Somebody pulls, but be able to identify, hey, that's a cell phone, don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus that's a handgun, I really do care. Looking at those things. So we're looking at that technology. So it's always not just more people. A lot of times in today's world, technology helps us.
Oh, for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned technology, because my last question before we get to our last segment is for our students. Our parents are a major part of our audience, our parents.
Yeah.
And we're parents. And I just want to ask you, what advice would you give to parents when the majority of our children have the world in their pocket? They have a cell phone. And like you said, technology is changing, evolving
Every day.
every single day. What advice would you give parents to help keep our children safe when it comes to this digital era that we live in?
Well, it's a little late to take it away from them. Because that would be my first one. Here's the thing, and this is going to sound harsh, but I've learned this, and I was guilty of it as a parent. My kids are adults now, right? My kids are 30 and 25. You got to be the parent. We see again and again when we see failures with children who are good kids who get hung up in something from making bad decision after bad decision. It is because parents aren't engaged enough. We want to trust our kids. We want to believe in our kids, and we should trust and believe in our kids. Absolutely. Okay. Trust but verify. If you don't know the password to your kid's phone, then you're not being enough of a parent.
That's a
I'm
problem.
sorry if I hurt somebody's feelings. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the sexting, the apps that they get on, the kids we've seen radicalized by social media things, the kids we see who are devolving because they're under such stress and such things, and they're sending stuff out. And I know that's tough as they get older, but particularly until they start earning more and more as they get older, you better be looking, and you better understand how that works. You better understand what apps can be hidden, those kind of things. And there's plenty of that on the internet for you to find out how that works, or we'll help you with that. But we owe that to our children. They're in a world now where they're bombarded with things that we were not bombarded with when we were growing up. We were kidding about, we met our wives in high school and middle school and those kind of things. You know, the challenges now did not exist then. The social media is 24/7. The comparison is 24/7. And so we've got to interject in that. We've got to create some streams that get them away from that and do those kind of things. And so be nosy, but you're being nosy because you love them.
You care. Yeah.
Because you care. God gave them to you for a reason.
Yeah.
They're your responsibility. He gifted you with them, all of us with ours. And so I know every parent takes it seriously, but we overlook those things, and I'm guilty of it. As every parent is guilty of it.
You get caught in the everyday
Sure.
life.
Yeah.
And work gets in the way and things get in the way. But like you said, know your kid. And when we had our student advocacy specialist on the show, he said the same thing.
Yeah.
Know your kid.
Yeah.
Talk to your kid. If something seems out of place, why?
Yeah.
Something's out of
Something's
place. You know your kid better than everyone else. So know that. And two, I will say this. Whenever your department hosts these social media nights that we have at schools, when it's internet safety and amazing presentations, it will open your eyes as to what's actually out there. And like we said, I'm an educational technology specialist. I'm supposed to know about technology. There's so much out there. I'm like, wow. That's out
me
there
too.
for my kids.
Yeah, me
so,
too.
yeah, if those are available, and hopefully they'll be coming up in the schools, if you're a parent listening to this, attend those because it will help you with your child.
Agreed.
All right, Mr. Freeman, Sheriff Freeman, before we let you go, though, we do have one last segment to put you on. We're going to call this segment the Lightning Round.
Here we go.
So,
Here we go.
Lightning Round is sponsored by Sonny Mountain Biscuit Company. Fresh, homemade, mama approved.
So
And
Sheriff
they're pretty
Freeman.
good.
Oh,
Yes, they
yeah.
are.
Oh, yeah. So here we go. So I'm going to give you a series of questions. I've sprinkled in some law enforcement themes
All right.
in here. Whatever comes to your brain, right? No passing, no phone a friend. You got to go to
That's
it.
it.
Are we ready to go? All
Shoot.
right, let's go. Favorite junk food?
Ooh, gelato.
Oh, man. What flavor are you doing?
It's gelato. I don't care.
Just
You don't
saying.
matter.
All right.
Biggest pet peeve?
Parking and handicap zones.
Oh, there you go.
How many tickets have you given someone for that?
Believe it or not, quite a few.
Oh, goodness.
Coffee or tea on the job?
Coffee.
All the way. What kind?
Medium roast, dark roast, and black coffee.
Okay. Favorite emoji?
probably strong arm.
Yeah, that's right.
Like
That's
it.
right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs, 100%.
100%.
7 days a week, 365.
Yeah. You got some four-legged friends?
I do. I have one out of our jail program, Plus a Purpose, Marley, my therapy dog, and then I have a rescued German Shepherd.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I love that.
Biggest inspiration?
Literally my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I read a little bit from y'all's bio that was it dad, uncle? I mean, over 130
everybody.
years I saw.
It's a family affair.
Yeah.
It is.
What was that about? Just you grew up in that.
I grew up around it.
Yeah.
Didn't think I would do it growing up around it. But
Yeah,
I
I'd
did.
never do it. And here we are. TV show you binge watch.
Ooh, right now, we're on Lioness,
Okay.
Taylor Sheridan thing.
Gotcha. If you have the choice, patrol car or motorcycle?
Patrol car.
Yes. All right. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Here we go. It's coming up. Biggest fear?
Something happening to my people, one of my deputies, and equally something bad happening to our citizens.
Yeah.
Are aliens real?
He may actually know the answer to this.
Can he answer? It's a top.
I have a top secret clearance.
Area 51 over here and coming,
So
man.
the answer is, I don't know, but I would lean towards possibly.
There we
Yes.
go. Take it. Best advice for someone interested in law enforcement?
This is going to sound really crazy. Get a minor in criminal justice. Do not go get a criminal justice degree.
Okay.
Okay.
We teach people really well how to become law enforcement officers. I have great trainers. We can teach you how to do that. I would love to see somebody with a business degree, better writing skills, those kind of broad-based organizational leadership, business, those kind of things. Law enforcement has become bigger than just a badge and a gun and a police car. And so broad skills will help you advance in your career.
Awesome.
Favorite city?
Florence, Italy.
Oh, man. I like that. Food you hate?
Mayonnaise.
Yes. Favorite thing to do in your spare time?
It used to be mountain biking, but I had to kind of give that up. So now it's actually just working out, spending time with my wife. We work out together.
I love that. Favorite movie about law enforcement?
Ooh, favorite movie about law enforcement. I can give you a TV show, One Adam 12, but I can't think of a movie.
Oh, we'll go with
It's nothing like Police Academy right now.
No, no, it's not that. No.
Steve Gutenberg.
No, Gutenberg's not. I don't think he's ever caught.
No.
So I'll go 1 Adam 12 as a TV series. I don't know how to answer on a movie yet.
Yeah.
No, we'll do that. What are some things that maybe most people don't know about being a sheriff?
The responsibilities that sheriffs have are broad, and there's a lot of old law that still exists. If loose livestock are found, I'm responsible for taking and caring for them.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Okay.
If
Got a goat, a llama out. You're
goat, llama, it is the sheriff's responsibility. If there is a tuberculosis outbreak, it is my responsibility to make sure if those people are ordered to be confined in their house, if they don't do it, I have to take them to the jail. That is an old mandate. I mean, there are some of those things out there that are like, what?
Wow.
And I was well versed as a law enforcement officer, and then when I became sheriff, I'm like, oh
I ain't doing that.
Is it just too hard to get those off the books, or what?
I don't know.
No one
And
just
then
thinks that's never going to happen.
Here's the one I normally don't say, but I will. The sheriff is the tax revenue officer for the county. Now, that's under old law. There is an elected tax commissioner who collects the taxes and do those kind of things. But the sheriff de facto has to give him the authority to do that.
Okay.
It's old law. It's not, but it's just these weird things that are still on the books that people have no clue about.
Kind of want to release a llama and see
See if Sheriff Freeman shows up.
Yeah, Sheriff Freeman. Something you can't live without.
Ooh, pups.
There you go. Favorite phone app?
Favorite phone app? It's not social media. I don't know that I have a favorite app.
No app. What are you using the most? ESPN or something?
It would either be ESPN or Amazon. God,
That's true. Yeah, especially with Christmas coming up. Yep.
And last but not least, give us one thing on your bucket list, Sheriff Freeman.
Ooh, bucket list is still to travel. I've not been to every state out west.
Okay.
And that's my bucket list to hit. Particularly, some of those states I haven't been out west. Spend some time there.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. And I just want to thank you personally. As an employee, I was telling my wife last night, she's also a school teacher. We have the motto, safe, connected, thriving. And I think you and your department helps out with that as well, to make sure that our kids are safe, our citizens are safe, and we feel safe when we're here.
Absolutely.
So thank you for what you do.
No, this is our home. This is the place we love, place my wife and I went to high school and all through school at. This is where we go to church at. And if there's ever a place I want to keep safe, it's Forsyth County.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That was our latest episode with Sheriff Ron Freeman. This episode has been sponsored by Andine Chevrolet. Andine Chevrolet, together, let's drive. And Greg, I love Sheriff Freeman's passion for this community.
Oh man, you could just feel it as soon as he came in the room. His eyes lit up, and talking about this community, and obviously he's got ties to it, right?
Yeah.
Family ties, and just growing up, and technically didn't grow up in this area, but I mean, pretty much 40 plus years is what he said. Mm-hmm. So you could see that obviously you want a sheriff like him that's protecting your community, but it almost means more, right? Because this is home for him.
It's home.
Yeah.
He's protecting his home. He's protecting his people, and protecting this community. And I love that passion. I love that partnership that's been going on with our school district as employees. I told them, and I'm not just saying the company line is. I feel safe here with his partnership, with our partnership, and what our school safety department does.
Absolutely.
What they do. It is truly safe, connected, and thriving, and we appreciate all that they do for us.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a down-to-earth, authentic guy. So easy to talk with, and that's, again, like you said, you never want to feel like the people that are higher up, you're not connected to them.
Yeah.
But he's one of us, right? I felt super like he's connected to us, our community, and I love that.
For sure. Thank you for listening to the Bulldogs Unleashed podcast. My name is David Miller, reminding you to embrace the journey. Thanks again.